So I'm going to tell you a secret, okay? Way back in 2018, I wrote a blog post that almost got a midwife fired. It wasn't intentional. We had actually signed off on it. I can't name names. I'm going to have to leave stuff out. But I have decided now, with Your Empowered Birth out in stores in Amazon, that it's time to reveal this super controversial blog post that got a lot of basically attention from our local health authority. And it is actually what inspired me to get even louder. Okay? So, after I found this out, I was just absolutely floored what happened. And I'm going to be reading this actual blog post to you. It's behind a hidden part of my old website, which was on WordPress. This was, as I said, back in 2018 when I just had a little mom blog. And I am about to reveal the secret blog post that people have not been able to see the light of day since, I would say, August of 2018. And this post came out in August of 2019. Sorry, it says right there. And it was shut down in August, and it was put up in May on the 28th, 2019. This blog post was also extremely popular, which was a problem. Because when I had to pull it, everybody was like, well, what happened to it? And then I wrote another one. And I'll share that one with you another time. But first, I'm just going to say, if you're loving this shirt that I'm wearing right now, this I Am Not Disposable, and you're wondering, where the heck can I get this? I'm just going to tell you, my best friend Jenny, who is also featured heavily inside of Your Empowered Birth, has her own website called thebirthhousenetwork.com. And she's actually created a whole bunch of merch. In fact, this is one of her designs. And she even customized the color for me so that it would work specifically for what I wanted. But if you want it, if you want to check out that stuff and get your own merch, I mean, there's things like you can take Pitocin and shove it up your own vein. FUCK, cervical exams, is one of them. In fact, that's one of the ones that Jenny's doula had personally been wearing as a hoodie. There is Expert of My Own Body. Like, you should just go check these out. These are really cheeky, tongue-in-cheek, empowered birth friendly style merchandise. And the thing is that all of the proceeds are going towards a good cause of us basically trying to get more birth houses in the lower mainland and also in other parts of the world. As I said, her website is a network. She also has a blog, so you can check that out as well. But if you want some merch, if you love this design, go and get your own, okay? So they are available. And of course, if you also are really loving the empowered birth stuff that I've been teaching, I teach even more inside of Your Empowered Birth. Again, links are in the bio, so check that out. So, what was this super controversial blog post? Well, here is what I had written. How a birth house in, blanking out the name, could change everything. So it was in our local area. But I said, how a birth house in this area could change everything. Last night, I had the pleasure and privilege as a member of the, blanking out name, Birth Network, to tour the new birth house owned by, blanking out the name of the midwife group, and blanking out the name of the midwife. And the thing you need to understand about her is that she comes from Australia, where the birth climate and culture is even more hostile towards families who wish to make informed choices in regards to their births. So this woman actually is even in contact with Rachel Reed, like they're friends. And that in itself, I was totally fangirling back in 2019 when I found this out. I mean, seriously, Rachel Reed, I just love her and adore her. You should check out her book, Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage. If you want to know everything about physiological birth, like, she really goes deep. So she moved to Canada with the goal of offering true informed choice to families in her new community and beyond. And from just one conversation with her, I am eager to see how far she will take this. I mean, at the time, I was very very idealistic, and I didn't understand just how much midwives were getting their hands tied. This is what really opened my eyes and made me realize that it was going to take all of us. It wasn't just going to be able to be on the midwives or the doulas, that there was a gag order happening. So here's the part that I said. It is important to recognize that this is a birth house, not a birth center. This is again how Jenny and I got the idea to create a birth house network, because we want to create more of these birth houses. This one in particular that I was promoting the hell out of ended up getting shut down because there's not a lot of funding for these types of things. The midwives are often paying out of pocket and they're not getting paid as much as they deserve to get paid. And because of that, they are really limited by what they can offer. And doulas also don't get paid very much. So what it's going to come down to is people need to understand that out-of-hospital birth needs to be more of an option, and then they can rent out their spaces as birthing suites, and that is what the Birth House Network really strives to do now. So, midwife's name redacted. She rents this space to clients who wish to use it for $500. This was back in 2019, probably be a little bit more. But that's a deposit, which essentially turns the space into an apartment for the client and their family to use, like an Airbnb. In doing this, she is able to get around the legal issues of offering an out-of-hospital birthing space because it's still technically a home birth. See why this is important? So if you are going to promote or recommend this space to anyone, please do not call it a birth center. BC does not, at the present time, have a birth center available. And then there was another organization that has since disbanded, but they had been working on addressing this issue. I will keep you posted on any developments through the Facebook page as I hear from them. And then I had some beautiful pictures that I can't show, obviously, because I can't promote this. It doesn't exist anymore anyway, but what it had was beautiful birth pools in every room. It had beautiful beds set up. Like, this was a suite. So the pool room and the bedroom can convert to separate spaces as needed. There's an additional pool and inflatable mattress that can be set up in the rooms for additional partitions should the birth house be at full capacity. Then I put in the headline, VBAC supportive. As you may well be aware, this is the part that I probably got her in trouble for, but we had signed off on it. We didn't think there was going to be any issue. The phrase, oops. They can be rather paternalistic, but pretty much every health authority tends to be rather paternalistic. It's not just related to just the Lower Mainland. It is pretty much all of these health authorities tend to be very paternalistic in their recommendations to mothers and birthing people. So while some health authorities support vaginal birth after multiple cesareans with the Power to Push campaign, which they don't have anymore, families further out were left with very few options. So many women have come to me over the years seeking out VBAC support. Many women were told they weren't allowed to have a trial of labor after more than one cesarean. This is a blatantly false statement and in direct violation of a person's rights to informed choice. However, the care providers saying that it's not allowed are counting on the VBAC-seeking individuals to give up after being constantly told no by the health authority. Not everyone can travel all the way to this hospital that had the Power to Push campaign for a VBAC, which is even more disheartening when the health authority also doesn't seem to offer true informed consent or follow evidence-based practices to support those seeking VBAC. So I asked this midwife during a Q&A session at our meeting whether she supports VBAC, and I was very impressed with her answer that ultimately she supports informed choice. So do I. So does the Birth House Network. So do a lot of birth workers. We need you to really push for this, because if you don't, it's going to be much harder for you to get it. So, and while the risks would be discussed, it would ultimately be the decision of the client. And I talk about this inside Your Empowered Birth about how you're the decision maker. So for all the VBAC-seeking families who were told no and denied a home birth, take heart that there's a midwife in this area who would not turn you away just because you've had a cesarean or more than one. Probably why she got in trouble. So then I had another picture and it said, a lovely bed and a space in the corner for a birth pool if desired. It's much bigger when you walk into the room. Pictures do not do this space justice. It was beautiful. So, maternity care without fear. In discussing her future plans for this unique space, this midwife also spoke of her desire to set up an area for non-stress tests to be done for clients who needed monitoring. Wouldn't that be awesome? Having had the unfortunate experience of being talked into NSTs that I did not actually need, just to avoid an induction for a condition my son didn't actually have, I can see that this is vital in order to protect clients' headspace for birth. Oxytocin is produced only when the birthing person or mother is relaxed, while adrenaline can set progress back and cause a stall in the onset of active labor. Knowing what we do about the way that the health authority pressures clients into accepting interventions they don't actually want or need, through scare tactics and coercive language such as, we can't allow you to, or you're putting your baby at risk, it is very likely that sending a client who wants to avoid an induction just for going overdue to the hospital routinely for NSTs and other tests would leave that person vulnerable to the pressure of the hospital staff. I remember how it felt being on the monitors with my then husband sitting beside me, only to have the midwife and the OB come in during a perfectly normal reading and tell me that just because everything was fine now didn't mean that it was safe for me to have a home birth and that they really would prefer a hospital delivery. Mind you, I was coming in for these tests twice a week, from 35 weeks to my due date. So in that time, I went from wanting to go ahead and do my home birth to asking permission, to finally accepting that they wouldn't allow me. Back then, I didn't know what informed choice truly meant. I didn't know a lot of things I know now. And that's why it was so easy for me to give in, which again, I talk about quite a bit inside of my book, Your Empowered Birth. And this is also why we need birth houses in every area, because out-of-hospital birth needs to have more options, which again, if you want to support the Birth House Network, links in the bio. In addition to that, by getting a copy of Your Empowered Birth, you're also supporting the Birth House Network because Jenny and I are in partnership. So whatever you're contributing to Jenny, you're also contributing to Empowered Birth. You're contributing to this overall movement to make this work. So I'm confident that had I been with this midwife practice 6 years ago, I would have had a home birth. Then my midwife had really done her best to push for me to stay home, but the hospital had ultimately won in the end. It is my hope that by having an alternative space for NSTs for these clients of this place and other midwife clients renting the space, that the fear-mongering of the hospital staff will no longer reach the most determined of clients at a vulnerable point in their pregnancies. And that is also why I support the need for more birth house spaces than there is just having birth centers and hospitals and home births where you have to have a midwife. There needs to be more out-of-hospital birth options. Free birth needs to be more talked about in mainstream so that people can really understand that this isn't dangerous. This is a choice that people are making because the medical system is constantly undermining confidences with these non-stress tests. And by having these out-of-hospital options, that takes away that fear. So then I also put food or drink won't be denied here. This is another view for the sitting room and the kitchen. Yes, they had a kitchen. So, knowledge is power. Finally, the birth house also holds space for those of us who are passionate about birth and informed choice to host classes. And it is my belief that the more options people are aware of, the less willing they will be to accept the status quo that our birth culture has created. There will be less fear and more understanding of the nature of birth and all its variations that can be amazing in their own way. Birth in this space is seen as a joyous family celebration and a private event at the same time. It is regarded as deeply personal and unique to each birthing person or mother, and the choice is respected above all else. I really tried to be inclusive with this one. So one more thing that solidified my impression of this midwife was when she revealed a secret to me that I was not aware of, but both validated my experience and changed how I think about what informed choice really means. Here is probably where I really got their feathers ruffled. She told me that by pulling the plug while I was in the tub, the nurse that had done so had violated my rights. So if somebody's done that to you in your birthing space, trying to have a water birth, there is also a coalition for Water Birth of Canada now. So Canada is getting its own coalition to be able to support water birth. Right now, what happened to me is that I had been pushing in the tub and they said you're not allowed to birth in the tub. But I found out that this was a violation of my rights. And by pulling me from the tub, regardless of hospital policy to not allow birth in the tub, they had committed assault. Think for a minute how much power I realized I had in that moment. I just received a golden ticket. So they touched me without permission, paying attention, and had my son actually been crowning at that moment, this is what's scary, that they had pulled the plug, that could have endangered his life, and as the water levels would not have been high enough for a safe water birth. They would have been too low. So essentially, she told me that the hospital didn't just have my birth trauma and lack of true informed consent to answer for, but assault and battery as well. This revelation, combined with her enthusiasm for teaching us all new language to use in terms of our rights and her passion for supporting birthing clients, has given me back hope that our system may be able to right itself and birth may be handed back to the women and other birthing people. So then I also had another picture. I said, there is seating outside as well. This is a truly gorgeous room and gives off a very peaceful energy. It was so beautiful. I really do have a dream that there's going to be more birthing spaces. And the more that your empowered birth gets out there and the more that you support your empowered birth and the Birth House Network, when you support us, we're going to put out more resources for moms. We're going to have more education. We're going to create birth houses if we can get some people that can really start donating and sponsoring. We could also start building those out-of-hospital birth spaces like this beautiful birth house that got shut down because the midwife could not keep it funded and her hands were tied. If I run the space or own the space, I am not a midwife, so I can't lose my license. They can't do anything to me. It would be an Airbnb. What are they going to do? Nothing, because it's a home birth setting. It's a place you've rented out. So this is one of my things that I want to create. This is one of my goals. It's something I had thought about back in 2019 and really got that idea for impact in 2020 when I built my business. So I wrote also, I am excited for the possibilities this new house will open up in our community and hope it might inspire other midwives who are passionate about informed choice to create their own house in the future. It would be wonderful if Canada became a country where all choices in birth were supported and where all families could have a space tailored to their needs when it comes to birthing their children safely and feeling supported and empowered in those births. And then I also said that if you would like to donate directly, inquire to this place. But of course, I can't say anymore. So you can really see, like, this is the most controversial post that a couple of months later, this midwife came to me and she said, we have to take this down. I've been called into a meeting. The health authority is very upset. They think that I put you up to this. And when I had first written it, I'd given her access and I said, look, I'm not going to run this unless you sign off on it. So it was her baby and I just wanted to support her. I was just doing something out of the goodness of my heart and supporting her. And then she ended up getting this whole big mess on top of that. So another time I will share what I wrote in when I had to take down this post, because the thing is that I had to take it down, I had to hide it, but I replaced it with something else. And it's kind of got a little teaser, I'll tell you. It was called Birth Advocacy is for All of Us. But for now, that's what I've got for you. My kids are starting to get antsy. They want their dinner. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you so much. If you want to know more about your empowered birth, the link's in the bio. If you want to get some merchandise like this awesome shirt that I'm wearing, I am not disposable. Jenny creates the merchandise. I'm actually giving her ideas on, she can take any of the quotes from your empowered birth and she can put them on the t-shirts. I mean, it's her thing. So I told her she can just go wild with it. And if you want to know more, if you want to do something custom, you can also reach out to her. Links in the bio for that as well. She also has a blog, and it's thebirthhousenetwork.com. Again, anything that you support of Empowered Birth and the Birth House Network is going to be good for all of us, because we're going to be committed to creating these birth houses and getting the network started up. We really want to make this a revolution in a way where informed choice is not just a nice to have, but an actual thing that just happens, and where you get the birth you want without having to fight, beg, or compromise. Like, you don't have to go into the hospital anymore and get scared out of your mind because there are no home births available. There's no midwife available to help you. You can go and stay in a birth house. You could stay close to a hospital but not actually go in. You could be like, you know what? I am just going to do my own thing. I'm going to travel to this nice, beautiful space. That way I don't have to worry about cleanup. And ultimately, it would just give you more options, because we shouldn't just be tied to these few options. It's ridiculous. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Again, links in the bio, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.